Shavua Tov. It's the night before Hanukkah. There is special light for Shabbos. There is special light for the whole week, next week, when every night we light a new candle for a new day of miracles. I think you all know the story of Hanukkah, the Maccabees, the odds, 1,000,000 to 1, and with spirit and faith and belief, Maccabees went out and won against the Hellenists, who tried to take away our identity, make us into something that we're not, take away what gives us and what makes us and what holds us together. And then comes the miracle. The temple destroyed and a mess. Can't light the menorah without the blessing of the oil of the high priest. And there is nothing. And they don't give up, and they search and they search, and they find a tiny vial of oil that's meant to last a week. But it lasts 8 days. 8 days of light in a black and dark time, but we won. You know, I just finished Shabbos a little while ago. It's not, it's early now, it's 5 o'clock that we finish. So I went to the internet, of course, to my telephone, to see what's going on. And the first thing I see is children floating in Gaza. I mean, you have to be absolutely blind not to see that this is fake. Then I went to other sites, more fake. There's no question that the storm that we had, which did incredible damage all over Israel, obviously also in Gaza. But there is no need for this kind of nonsense that people believe and think that this is real. I mean, it's bad enough the way it is. And it's very, very serious what we had. But why create horror when there's just enough of it? Why make things look like they're 1,000% worse than they are? Just for more anti-Semitism, more hatred toward Israel. Why? How is it possible? I keep asking the same question and nobody answers me. How is it possible to make peace with someone who does nothing else except spread horror, kill every day, attack every day, and whose life work and life mission in all he says and all he does his manifest in life, his religion in life, instead of looking for peace, is death. Death, death, death. Killing, killing, and killing. Do we have a choice? The Torah says when somebody comes to kill you, kill them first. Normal. Enough with the idea of walking into gas chambers. Enough of walking into death, knowing it, and not fighting. The days are over. Actually, we're going backward because the Maccabees fought, and they fought enormous amounts, and they went few, but they win because there is God, and God decides, and God makes things happen all the way around, not for us only, for everybody. We have an incredible parsha this week. And I don't want to do parsha again, but what I want to do is, I have 8 years of parsha in Italian, so whoever is interested, go and go to YouTube and just put in the parsha, and 3 or 4 or 5 different versions will come up for every year. Vayeshev basically should be completely different because it means settled. And after all the years of suffering and fighting angels and fighting a magician and having 12 children and losing a wife and Shem and a daughter being raped. I mean, you take Yaakov's life and, starting with Esav, it's not a joyride. So he gets to a place where he wants to rest. He wants to retire. He wants to enjoy the fruitful, last years of his life. Yosef is 17. He loves him dearly. He's his preferred son. He makes a beautiful coat for him with all the colors. But his brothers hate him. Why do they hate him? Because he's so attached to his father. His father is so attached to him. He learns with his father everything that his father learned at the yeshiva of Shem and Ever is being given to Yosef. And Yosef is righteous. I mean, there's just no conversation about it. He's righteous. He can't stand the fact that his brothers are mocking the brothers, in other words, the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, and call them slaves. Why? They're Yaakov's sons. They're just as much Yaakov's sons as Rachel and Leah's sons. But they don't buy that. They want preferential treatment for themselves, and they certainly don't like the idea of Yaakov showing his preference by making this incredibly beautiful coat for Yosef. And they don't like the fact that Yosef tells his father of what's going on. And that the situation is not nice. So Yosef is naive. He's naive. He tells the truth. I guess when you tell the truth, you're naive and people take advantage of you. So he has these dreams, and instead of keeping them to himself, because he understands them, he tells them to his brothers who can't stand him to begin with, okay, who are jealous of him to begin with, who want to do him in to begin with. Here, a dream. The exact words. Please listen to this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the middle of the field, when look, my sheaf stood upright and it kept standing too, and then look, your sheaves gathered round and threw themselves down in front of my sheaf. His brother said to him, does this mean that you want to reign constantly over us or rule over us the whole time? And they hated him even more because of his dreams and because of his evil reports. Yosef has another dream, and he tells his dream. Here I've dreamed another dream, just look. The sun and the moon and 11 stars threw themselves down before me. If you have such a dream and you understand just a little bit and you have a little bit of knowledge of Torah, Torah tells you these are dreams that are foretelling. He then told this to his father in the presence of his brother, and his father rebuked him in order to calm the brothers down. And he said, Yosef, what is this dream that you have dreamed? How could I, your mother, and your brothers come and throw themselves down to you on the ground when your mother has already passed away? But his brothers still envied him. But his father, however, believed in the dream and kept waiting for the event to occur. So this is an interesting point. There are moments in life, I think in everybody's life, when they have dreams that are like premonitions. Yaakov was the perfection. And even though he was the perfection, he did something that we can look at and we can say it's not right. He shouldn't have preferential treatment for Yosef. All his sons should be equally loved. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. It happens that you love one more than the other. You have greater feelings and emotions to one or the other. Why? Because that's the way humanity is. The brothers want to kill him. They just simply want to kill him. And we're talking about tzaddikim, we're talking about righteous. Each of the brothers are righteous. Where does this come from? Here is always the conversation of humanity. So they go into the fields and they take their flocks. And Yaakov tells Yosef, go with your brothers, go see what they're doing, and come back and tell me that everything's okay. Well, he gets lost. The angel Gabriel sees him in the fields, tells him that they're not going to where he thought they were going, but instead he's going to Dosan, and that they are not part of the brotherhood anymore. What does this mean? The Torah is very clear. The angel Gabriel says directly, they've left here, they're not acting like your brothers anymore, for I heard them saying, let's go to Dosan, we'll find a legal pretext to kill our brother. Why is Dosan a place for a legal pretext? Is that important? That must have been important because obviously that's where that happens, where the brothers make up their minds that they're going to kill him and they're going to take an animal, take the coat, that famous coat of a million colors, and put it into the blood and send it to the father and have him recognize it and say that an animal ripped him to pieces. So they make up their minds that that's what they're going to do. Reuben says, don't do that. Instead, put him into a pit with scorpions and snakes. And he's thinking, if we put him into the pit, then afterwards I'll come, when I come back from taking care of my father, I'll come back and I'll take him out of the pit. So they'll do it. They do exactly that. They take the coat. They put the coat in blood. They put him into the pit, and then there is a group of Arabs that are coming by, and Yudah says, let's make some money on this deal. Let's sell him. That way we don't have blood on our hands. Great idea. And they sell him for 20 silver pieces. Not to the first group, but to the second group, and then there's a switch, and he winds up to be taken to Egypt, obviously, and he winds up to be bought as a slave by Potiphar, who happens to be the master butcher of the Pharaoh. And, Hashem does things, and you can't, from one minute to the next, you have no clue. You can make plans, and things just don't work out that way. Why not? I did everything right. I put everything together. I logically designed it all. Why isn't it working? Going back to Yaakov, they bring him the coat. A courier brings him the coat. He says, "Identify this. Is this your son's coat?" "This is my son's coat." And Yaakov goes into an enormous, we would say today depression, but it's not a depression. It's a mourning that simply does not stop. It's a mourning of a father for a child. It's the mourning of a parent who should never have to bury a child. And here in this particular case, you don't have a child to bury. Where I heard the interview today of the father of the last prisoner who was the first to go in, and his body is not yet returned. And I heard his words, and I'm thinking I'm listening to Torah, because the words are identical. The hurt, the pain, the incredible misery that a parent goes through when she loses a child. I know. I have. So we have to also mention that Reuben goes back to the pit. He sees that there is no child. And the brothers have made a deal between them that no one will ever, ever, ever tell. And if they do, they'll be excommunicated. So Reuben does not know the truth of the actual sale of Yosef. And he begins to mourn. Returns to the pit. Look, Yosef wasn't there. He tore his garments. He returned to his brothers. The boy is not there. Where can I go to escape my father's anguish? It's my son's coat. A wild beast has devoured him. Yosef has been ripped apart again and again and again. Yaakov tears his garments, sackcloth. He mourned many days for his son. And he says, I will go down to my grave while I am still mourning for my son, for I will never be consoled. You know, these are words written in Torah, which are words that are timeless, because the pain of loss is timeless. We have no words to explain, to make sense of what happens. So the Midianites sold Yosef to Potiphar, and the Torah goes off completely into another direction and talks about Yehuda and Tamar. Now, Yehuda is the one, obviously, who suggested that the sale be done. When everybody sees, obviously, the reaction of the father, they go for the leader Yehuda, and say, you should have never allowed us to do this. Who listens? At the moment of wanting something, doing something, deciding something, we act. They wanted to do this. Yehuda found another way, basically, of not doing it, but the brothers take that as not having done the right thing, that he should have talked them out of it, and they demote him. But there is the vow between them. So the vow is binding. None of the brothers who were part of this, ever told either Reuben or Yaakov of what actually happened. So here comes the story of Tamar and Judah, and the Torah goes off into a completely different conversation. Judah was a smart guy, and Judah was powerful in his character. He said, okay, I can't deal with them. I will go and do my own thing. So he went into business, and he got married, and he had Er, which was his firstborn, and then he had Onan, and then he had Shelah. And very little is said about any of this, because here are the words. Er, Judah's firstborn, was evil in the eyes of God and God made him die. So what happened here? So Judah said to Onan, come to your brother's wife, meaning Tamar. Tamar was married to Er. She was the daughter of a priest. And he didn't do what he was supposed to do, which is to procreate. And that was not right in God's eyes, obviously, and God made him die. And his brother was, so Onan was supposed to marry his brother's wife, Tamar, and continue the line of his brother in a levirate marriage, which was the way things were done. But he didn't want to do that because he knew that that wasn't going to be his name. The child was not going to be his name. It was going to be established under his brother's name. The whole family would be established under his brother's name. And he didn't like that, so he wasted seed. And so that was evil in Hashem's eyes, and he made him die too. So twice by the decision of heaven. So the next one, the next son was Shilah, and Tamar had to wait for him to get old enough, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen because, well, you know, two sons and the same woman, so it's not really a great deal to have my third son. Whatever, not important. Important instead is that Tamar wanted a child, and she wanted a child from Yehuda. So she took off her widow's dress and she made herself into a prostitute, and she sat on some corner where she knew she was going to encounter Yehuda, who was on a business trip with his sheep. And he saw her, and he said, get ready. She was a prostitute, so he wanted to be with her. And she said, well, what are you going to give me as a how do you say that? It's not a gift, but collateral. It's collateral for what you need to pay me. They say, I'll pay you a goat. But no, that's not enough. Give me your cloak, give me your signet ring, and give me your staff. Important things. Not little things, important things. A goat is a goat. A signet ring, a staff, and a coat, that's premonition. After all, she knew who she was, and she knew who he was. He didn't know who she was because she veiled her face, and end of story, he didn't know. But she got pregnant. She got pregnant. Why? Because Hashem had plans. And after 3 months of being pregnant, people came to Judah and told him that his daughter-in-law got pregnant through harlotry. Oh, it's important to say that he did send the goat, and he wanted back, obviously, his collateral, but nobody knew who she was, and people said, no, there is no harlot here. So the harlot, Tamar, had collateral. And when Yehuda heard that she was pregnant through harlotry, it didn't come to his mind that his daughter-in-law would have been the harlot that he was. So, as in the times, he said, take her out and burn her. She was the priest's daughter, so she was to be burned. She sent a message to her father-in-law, says the Torah, saying, I am pregnant from the man to whom these belong. She said, please identify whose signet ring, coat, and staff are these? Judah obviously recognized them, and he said, she's right in what she says. She became pregnant from me justifiably because I did not give her to my son, Shelah. And he didn't continue to be intimate with her anymore. Alternatively, he did continue. So obviously there was a lot of time period in between, but I guess they got back together again. And from this incredible story comes Hashem's desire, Hashem's wish. Listen carefully. Then she was giving birth, and look, there were twins in her womb. What happened was that when she was giving birth, one baby stretched out his hand. The midwife took a crimson thread and tied it on his hand, saying, this one came out first. Then after the baby brought his hand back inside, and look, his brother emerged. She said, with such strength you have forced yourself. So Yehuda called him Peretz. And afterwards his brother emerged with the crimson thread on his hand, and he named him Zarach because of his shining appearance. Shining appearance has something to do with Mashiach. And it is said that from this incredible happening, the Mashiach will come. It's not easy. understand, and we wait for, really, we wait for Mashiach to be coming from the union of a so-called harlot and the head of the tribes. It's very interesting, very, very difficult, and in order to understand, you have to seriously read Rashi and Goravier and Chizkuni and all of the various conversations of the sages who come up with explanations that are extraordinary and tell us what will be the future. Show us the road. Look, we go back to Egypt. Yosef is doing fabulously well at the house of Potiphar. Hashem is with him. He twirls himself and puts on makeup on his eyes. He's very, very, very handsome. And basically Potiphar puts everything into his hands. Everything blossoms. He realizes, hey, what do I need to worry about this? I have Yosef. Everything he does is obviously blessed by Hashem. We continue. He will do everything. I do my stuff, and off he goes. Potiphar's wife, on the other hand, has completely other ideas, and she wants, and she asks Yosef to sleep with her. Yosef says, no, I won't sleep with you, because God would never allow such a thing. And she goes after him in a very, 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 very overt way. But before that, there is already judgment, because God says, you are pampering yourself, putting on, what is that stuff called to make your eyes black, and curling your hair and dressing to the nines. So you're pampering yourself, says Hashem, while your father is mourning. I will incite the bear against you. Then after these words of God, his master's wife casts his eyes on Yosef and says, sleep with me. And here comes, the whole conversation of he doesn't. She waits for an opportunity when nobody is around. She goes after him. He says no. She rips a piece of his clothing, or he drops a piece of his clothing. She screams, look what he did to me, and look, I have his clothes, and he wanted to rape me, but no, I made him go away. And she tells this to her husband, and sexual assault. I mean, Potiphar gets incensed. Here I gave him everything. I put everything into his hands, and he goes after my wife. What is this? All right. Puts him in jail. Puts him in jail, and the prison warden is only too happy to have this handsome, bright, brilliant young man. Sees immediately that he's great with the other prisoners. Everybody likes him, so he says, okay, take over. Take care of the prisoners. And he puts everything into his hands. And God was with him. And everything was perfect. So here come the great dreams again. Two prisoners come in. One is the baker, and the other one is the butler of the Pharaoh. Both of them obviously have done something to displease the Pharaoh, and they get thrown in jail. They get thrown in jail, and they get put into the care of Yosef. One day Yosef comes in, he sees that they're both very disturbed, and he says, what's going on with you? Why are you disturbed? Well, we had a dream, both of us had a dream the same night. The king's butler had a dream. The king's baker had a dream, but they're depressed because they have nobody to interpret the dream. And Yosef said to them, don't dream interpretations come from God. Please tell me your dreams. The chief butler tells him, a vine was before me, and on the vine were 3 tendrils. It seemed to be blossoming, and its buds came out, and then the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and I squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I placed the cup on Pharaoh's palm. And Yosef said to him, this is the interpretation. He didn't say, I'll think about it. He didn't say, well, maybe I'm right or maybe I'm wrong, or this is my opinion. He says, this is the interpretation. The 3 tendrils are 3 days. In another 3 days, Pharaoh will count his officers to serve him at a meal, and he will count your head and restore you to your position. Then you will place Pharaoh's cup into his hand, just like when you were his butler in the first instance. No here, no there, no thinking, no talking, no nothing. This is the interpretation. And then he says something that he never should have said, that cost him 2 years of his life in prison. If you would then remember me alongside you when things go well for you, please do me a favor and mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. For I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and I haven't done anything wrong here either. And they put me in prison. Big, gigantic mistake. The chief baker sees and hears this interpretation, and he also had a dream. In my dream, I too was there, and look, there were 3 baskets on my head. In the upper basket was a selection of all of Pharaoh's foods made by a baker, and the birds were eating them from the basket on the top of my head. Yosef replied, and this is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In another 3 days, Pharaoh will remove your head from you and hang you on the gallows, and the birds will eat your flesh off you. No conversation. That's the way it is. And so it happened that on the 3rd day, it was Pharaoh's birthday. Pharaoh made a banquet, and all his servants, he counted the chief butler and the chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief butler to his position as butler, and the butler placed the cup on Pharaoh's palm. And just like Joseph had predicted, he hung the chief baker. But that day, the chief butler did not remember Joseph, and he forgot him. Later on, too. Why did it cost Yosef 2 years more in prison? Because he didn't trust that Hashem would bring him out of prison in the time that was appropriate for him to go out of prison. Going and telling somebody, remember me, do me a favor. We do it all the time. We ask somebody for help. We don't think about it. It's a natural thing to do. But Hashem wants you to think about Him. And He wants you to come to Him. And He wants you to ask Him. And He wants you to trust Him. And He wants you to have faith in Him. So if you have faith in Him, then you don't ask the butler to remember you to the Pharaoh. You say, okay, Hashem. Okay. Your time obviously is not my time. And my thoughts and my desires are obviously not your desires. Because if you want me to have all my things for Hanukkah, then my stuff would have arrived. The container would have gotten here. My dream was that I would make a big Hanukkah party with all of my beautiful things, all of my collection of menorahs, which if you follow me, you see them. Every year I have big Hanukkah parties with all the menorahs lit. But it didn't happen. So I went and I bought a beautiful menorah of the 50s. Go right into my collection when all my things get here in Hashem's time. And I'm going to make a party anyway. Without anything, with what I have, and we will all celebrate the light and the miracle of Hanukkah. And when the time is right, my container will arrive and I will do what I need to do in Hashem's time. It doesn't mean that I can't desire. It doesn't mean that I can't try. In this particular case, I really couldn't do anything anyway, but my mind at least was there. But at the end of the day, Hashem decides, and what He wants, and what is His desire, and what He wants to give me, and when He wants to give me, or if He wants to give me. All of it with faith and hope and belief and trust. Hashem, bring us light, bring us peace, give us strength to overcome all the evil in the world. Make us see and understand your love and your power, and give us the sachel, the understanding to always come to you for everything that we need, and know that only you will give us what you desire for us to have. 8 days of light, may it open the hearts of all, enlighten every corner of the world. Into the darkest places, let the flame bring hope and peace. May you have a beautiful and wonderful holiday, Chanukah Sameach, and peace to all of our friends. Be well.